When I was pastoring, I made a remark to the congregation that anytime you were out 2 Sundays in a row, the next Sunday, you owe me dinner. It worked. People came to church because they saw how much I ate. So I started mentioning that recently, and see some folks in church today that I missed. So we're glad you're here. If it takes a threat like that, I'll do it. But we're just glad that you're here today. And honey, we got to go find something to eat. So,
I got you back.
all right, she's got me covered. As I began to prepare for today, several weeks ago, the Lord gave me the lesson that you have when you follow a star and end up at a shack. The wise men, I'm just briefly going to go through the lesson, part of it with you. The wise men, wise, they knew what they were doing. They thought they were looking for the king. Even went by the king's house. Talked to him about it. The king said, well, when you find him, let me know, that I may worship him also. And according to history, they traveled for about 2.5 years. And they finally came to where the star stopped leading them. And it was not a kingdom. It was not a palace. It was not a king as they had supposed the king to be. It was a baby, a child, toddler. What that leads me to is that sometimes we're looking to God for great and mighty things. Sometimes He comes to us in ways that we don't understand. Sometimes He allows things that makes us even question. Are we on the right journey? Are we doing the right thing? Are we going where we need to be going? Are we doing what we should be doing? What is going on in my life? And to twist maybe the words of an old song, what have I ever done to deserve all this? Why is this happening to me? And I gave you some points there to look after. Some things that we need to be doing. Use that for a Bible study this week. Because the Lord sent a man in my path some time ago. We had prayer with him. Sent him on his way. The next thing I heard, he'd seen the king. The king had come to visit him. The Lord, in the midst of traveling, a wise man, traveling the land, thought he was going to find something extraordinary, thought they had the plan all laid out and knew exactly where he was going. All of a sudden, life threw a curveball. You know what I'm talking about? Things happened that you really didn't expect, and all of a sudden your journey is interrupted, and you're wondering, why me, Lord? What have I ever done to deserve all this? And then you find a real king. Doris Chitwood introduced me to, first of all, to Crash. Now, that's another story. I'll let you ask her how she got that name, Crash. And I hear wheels running, spinning already. Well, slow down. Maybe that's why the crash. No. Then I met Crash's husband, Larry. Crash, what's your name? Kathy. Kathy.
Nobody knows me by that.
I knew she had a real name, but it was kind of like the guy I told you preached a funeral for, and I didn't know his name. Junebug. all I ever knew and all anybody ever knew was Junebug, so I preached Junebug's funeral. And all I ever knew was Crash, and now it's Kathy. So I'll try to remember one or the other. But I met Larry. And Larry has something to tell us. He was on a journey, and I won't get into his story, but he was on a journey, and it didn't end up where he thought it was going. He thought he was going to find the kingdom, and he found a baby in a shack. Larry, come here, Larry Adams. Click the screen there. He's our speaker today. God bless you today. Here's a bottle of water. Here's a hand.
Hey, Brother Larry.
Here's a handheld microphone. You need to
Well, my wife says I'm loud enough without a microphone, but, you know.
Well, we can't hear so well, so use it.
Well, you have to understand that her name is Crash, nicknamed anyway. Sometimes I get emotional,
It's okay.
and that's okay. I've done this for the first time at my church in front of people I was raised around all my life. That was very emotional. But I'm getting better. I'm only nervous and shaking like a leaf on a tree. I'm going to tell you a story about a miracle. That miracle is me. I'm alive today and here in front of you because of God and God only. First off, I'm going to start out by reading from Isaiah chapter 40, verses, well, I done lost it. See there, I'm not a good speaker. I'm not as well prepared as Bob, but I'll do the best I can. Chapter 9 through about 22, 23. And it's titled, The Greatness of God. Go on up to a high mountain, O Zion, herald of good news. Lift up your voice with strength, O Jerusalem. Herald of good news, lift it up, fear not. Say to the cities of Judah, behold your God. Behold, the Lord God comes with might, and his arms rules for him. Behold, his reward is with him, and his recompense before him. He will tend his flock like a shepherd. He will gather the lambs in his arms. He will carry them in his bosom, and gently lead those that are with young. Who has measured the waters in the hollow of his hand, or marked off the heavens with a span? Enclosed the dust of the earth in a measure, and weighed the mountains in scales and the hills in a balance. Who has measured the Spirit of the Lord, or what man shows him his counsel? Who did he consult, and who made him understand? Who taught him the path of justice, and taught him knowledge, and showed him the way of understanding? Behold, the nations are like a drop from a bucket, and are accounted as the dust of the scales. Behold, he takes up the coastlands like fine dust. Lebanon would not suffice for fuel. All the nations are its beast enough for a burnt offering. All the nations are as nothing before him. They are counted by him as less than nothing and emptiness. To whom then will you liken God? Or what likeness compare with him? An idol? A craftsman cast it, and a goldsmith overlays it with gold, and casts for its silver chains. He who is too impoverished for an offering chooses wood that will not rot. He seeks out a skillful craftsman to set up an idol that will not move. Do you not know? Do you not hear? Has it not been told you from the beginning? Have you not understood from the foundations of the earth?
Wow.
When I was reading over this, with the help of the minister at my church, that verse, or this particular verse in Isaiah, and if you want to read it all, it's Isaiah chapter 40. I want you to think, and this one hit me like a rock, because during my time here, since February, things hit me like a rock. I have always been raised in a Christian family. I'm one of the lucky ones. I had a Christian father and mother.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. My mother lived to be 90, Mama lived to be 93. I've always believed in God. I've always trusted in God. Probably not as much as I should have most of the time. But I'm human. I don't even try. And I would question God, why this or why that? Well, this past February, I woke up Sunday morning, wasn't feeling real well. I said, but I'm going to get up, excuse me, I'm going to get up and go to church. By Sunday after church, I was worse. I was having upper abdominal pain all up under my rib cage. By 6 o'clock that afternoon, my wife, and if you know her, looked at me and said, it's time to go. We went to Riverview. They x-rayed me. The doctor said, looks like you got a lot of air in your upper colon. I recommend a CT. So we took off and went to Pineville. I was hurting so bad, folks, I couldn't even walk. I couldn't get a deep breath. Honestly, I was on my knees in my house before we went to Riverview. I had no idea. But when I walked in the door at Pineville ER, I looked at Kathy and I said, it's time to go home. She said, what? I said, I'm not hurting anymore. There's no need for me to stay here and waste money. Well, that didn't do any good with my wife. Or the nurse that was in the ER, because he was a friend of mine. So he decided I would stay and get tests done. At 3 o'clock in the morning, they come back with a abdominal CT that said, the doctor said, Mr. Adams, your CT is clear. Well, I'm not, my wife says I don't listen all the time anyway. But when the doctor was telling me that, she said, but did you know, let me pull this a little close, my wife says I'm getting too low and I can't believe that. But anyway, the doctor said, but did you know you had nodules in both lower lobes? Folks, at 3 o'clock in the morning, with no silly, I heard it, but it didn't register. So we went home. Kathy was going back to work at Riverview to put those reports in my chart. She seen where it was nodules mentioned. So she went off the deep end. Doris Chitwood, who is not only a dear friend of mine, but my PCP. The next thing I know, I'm at Novant getting a chest CT at 12 o'clock Monday at dinner time. So I called Kathy and told her, I said, CT's done. I'm going to York. I'm in the parking lot at 4:30 in the afternoon. And let me interject something here. I've been in the medical field for 28 years. Don't know everything, don't claim to. But when my wife sends me a text, can you come to Riverview at 4:30, and she gets off at 4:30? It don't take a genius to realize there's something serious. And so I text her back, yeah, I'm on the way, what's the matter? Nah, she ain't gonna tell me. Can you just come to Riverview? And I could hear the vectness in her voice over my text. So I got in the car, headed that way, called her. I said, what's going on? Can you just not come to Riverview? I said, well, yeah, I can be there. walk in there, and they send me to what they call a little private room called observation room. My wife's sitting in a recliner crying. Dar sitting on the other side. Y'all, I'm not smart, but I'm not stupid either. I knew it wasn't good. So I walked over, knelt down in front of my wife, and I said, whatever it is, don't worry. God's got this. Little did I know what those words meant. So we end up with an appointment with a doctor, a pulmonologist. The 3 doctors I'm going to mention in here, you can't get an appointment normally within 6 months. That's how backed up they are. I had an appointment in 2 days with a pulmonologist. Y'all, that's God's hand.
Yeah.
Not mine. Not anything anybody done. That's just God. So we go to the pulmonologist. He confirmed they were cancer. So end up getting a biopsy on the left side. Results of the biopsy, they still did not know what kind of cancer I had. So the next thing was a thoracic surgeon. Same way. Wasn't long till I had an appointment with this man. First thing he done was recommended surgery, what they call thoracotomy. They removed the right lower lobe in my lung. I'm in the hospital, keeping in mind that I have some background of American knowledge. The doctor says, you have stage 4 melanoma. Well, stage 4 is not a good thing that anybody wants to hear. I didn't want to hear it. Nobody wants to hear it. So I looked at him and I said, what's the next move? Well, when the surgery heals up from the right side, we're going to remove the mass from the left side. I healed up. By the way, if you gentlemen are looking for a carjack, check out the OR at Novant. I think that's what they use to separate my ribs to do the surgery. It's been almost a year and I'm still having numbness and pain all the way around. But anyway, I healed from that. Send me for a PET scan. And my oncologist, who has ties with Duke University, had an appointment with him. And I walked in and I said, okay, when are we going to do the left side surgery? He said, we're not. He said, we're going to start you on immunotherapy treatments immediately. He said, your cancer is worse now than it was before you went to surgery. Stage 4. So I point blank asked him, I said, if I don't have these treatments, how long have I got? He said, 6 months. That was about May. Y'all, there was never any doubt that I was going to have treatments. But that's a rude awakening. I consider myself a young man. I was 67 years old at the time. I got 6 granddaughters that I absolutely love. I want to spend time with them. So there was no doubt I was going to have treatments. But you don't want to hear you got 6 months. I would have made 68. And who knows what kind of condition. Well, we started immunotherapy treatments. And first off, they sent me down and said, these are some of the side effects. The major ones: fatigue, nausea, vomiting, rash, diarrhea. And then there was a list about this long afterwards that I just said, that's enough, I don't need that. Well, they started me and they said, you'll get a treatment every 3 weeks for a year. And it's 2 drugs called Opdivo and Yervoy. They're both made to fight melanoma cancer. And Dr. Favero, my oncologist, whom I just love to death, doesn't have any bedside manner, but a wonderful doctor. But anyway, I sat down with him and I said, okay, 3 weeks, I get a treatment. He said, yeah, after the first 4, you get a PET scan. And he told me what he expected to see on that PET scan. He said, then we'll do 4 more treatments and another PET scan. He said, you'll do this for a year. And I'm thinking to myself, boy, have I got this week. God had other plans, folks. And just like Bob said, it ain't what I wanted. Long story short, after the first treatment, went back for 3 weeks. After 3 weeks to have my second treatment, they were getting ready to start the IV, and the nurse come up and said, Mr. Adams, said, we can't give you a second treatment. Said your liver enzymes are out of sight. So here it goes. The only way they got to fight side effects is prednisone. I'm a diabetic. Prednisone drives your blood sugar slap through the roof. They started me out on 70 milligrams a day. Oh, it gets better. It gets better. So, 7 weeks later, my liver enzymes are normal, whatever that means. I get my second treatment. Now, I'm already a treatment behind, right? Almost 2 treatments behind. The second treatment, 2 days later, already fatigue had set in. And they had put me on Ritalin. No, who's not? Ritalin normally slows children down, but it speeds up adults. And I needed speeding up. So, they put me on Ritalin. Got my second treatment. 2 days later, I start doing this. It wasn't long. My wife said, okay, time to go see Dr. Favero. I broke out in a rash from the top of my kneecaps to the top of my head. Dr. Favero says, we've got to get this under control. And I was reducing my steroids this whole time by 10 milligrams a day. So I was down to about 30, 40 a day. I'm gonna whip this. He said, if you do not get this under control, he said, you'll end up in a burn center with your skin sloughing off. That's like stage 4 cancer, folks. I didn't want to hear that. So back up, this time to 80 milligrams a day. My blood sugar looked like the Smoky Mountains, just like this, up and down. And then my wonderful PCP, whom I love to death, remember that. Between her and Dr. Favero, I end up on insulin. Taking my blood sugar 4 times a day. And I was on a diet, what I call affectionately the forest diet. That means you walk through the woods and you eat anything you see at eye level, limbs, twigs, berries, bark off the trees, squirrels and rabbits if you can catch them. They put me on a meat and vegetable diet. Well, folks, it didn't get any better. Started reducing my 80 milligrams a day. The next thing that hits me is diarrhea. Uncontrollable. Guess what? Steroids. Back up to 80 milligrams a day. Well, by this time, I'm 2 to 4 treatments behind. I'm getting a little down. I'm getting a little perplexed. It's hard for me to say. Well, things didn't go the way I had planned, just like Bob indicated this morning. I had my good days and I had my bad days. I would cry. Remember, it's a 67-year-old man. But I would cry. I'd get out on my knees. God, I don't want this cancer. Take it away. I want to see my granddaughters grow up. Little did I know, I'm going to read some verses again. I want you to think about it, because I sure am. Who has measured the Spirit of the Lord? Or what man shows him his counsel? Who did he consult? Who made him understand? Who taught him the path of justice and taught him knowledge and showed him the way of understanding? Just before I realized this passage, I said, God, why me? Why me? What have I done to make this bad situation I'm in? And then I thought about it. Why not me? Brothers, sisters, I'm no better than the next person. Probably worse than some. God had a plan for me. Had no idea what it was. But it didn't show go with what I had planned for me. No. Because I planned 3 weeks of treatment. Every 3 weeks in a year's time, I'd have this covered. By this time, I'm almost 7 treatments behind. I had no idea where I stood with this cancer. And the Dr. Favera had told me, he said, Larry, you have a very, 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 very aggressive cancer. Another thing that I really wanted to hear, along with the stage 4, and my skin coming off. I began to get depressed. I began to get mad. I'd had a bad weekend, a bad week. My wife come in. And I said, sit down, I'm going to talk to you. She said, what about? I said, I'm done. No more treatments, no more medicine. I have no idea where I stand. I don't know what's going on. I don't want to go through these side effects anymore. I'm through with them. So I'm going to call, I'm going to call Dr. Favero Monday morning and tell him I'm done. Who was giving up? Was it God? No. It was me. I'm the one that was giving up. I was having a rough time. I was going down a rough road. I'm normally a very healthy, active person. I worked 2 jobs most of my life, and a farm too. I felt that I had been as far as I could go. Couldn't take any more. My wife, who is the second rock in my life, the first one, of course, is God. But that's my second one sitting right back there. She was with me since this thing started. She's still with me. She encouraged me. She never fussed at me, which is I'm a little worried about right now. But I know I'm going to have to make up for it eventually. But in my heart, I was not trusting God, even though I knew God was in control. Very much in control. I'm the one that lost faith. She looked at me and she said, how about a second opinion? That's all I need is another doctor. You know? Excuse me. And I looked at her point blank and said, I really don't care. Do what in the heck you want to do. I'm done. I'm fed up with it. My second rock wasn't. She come in on Monday morning and she says, we have another appointment. And I said, who with this time? M.D. Anderson, Houston, Texas. I said, why there? She said, that's the best. And I want the best for you. God wants the best for all of us.
Yes, He does.
Bless the Lord.
We may not understand it. We may not see it. I was too blind to see. I was too blind to see what God was doing. Still didn't have a clue. Still don't have a clue what God's got planned for me. But God has got a plan for me. Or else I wouldn't be standing in front of you nice people today. Well, we fly out to Houston, Texas, which I wasn't happy about. I'd much rather drove because she drives. I could have slept. She don't trust my driving. I don't trust hers either. Tell her, okay? We arrive in Houston. We arrive in Houston on Sunday. We get checked into the motel. They have a shuttle bus service that runs within 3-mile radius of that motel. Anywhere you want to go, free of charge. Free of charge. So, I'm a diabetic. I have to take medicine. I was on all these other meds that I had to take. And there again, I have to still monitor my blood sugar 4 times a day. Well, as a black gentleman that drove the shuttle bus, and he said, "Folks, it's Sunday. I'll take you everywhere you want to go." See, he said, "Just wherever you want to go." Yeah, you don't look surprised. I want my wife to tell you about this shuttle bus driver. And keep one thing in mind. Angel.
First of all, I want to say I thank each and every one of you that prayed for us while we were going through this, because we had a lot of prayer here with Doris and Dr. Bob and Preacher Bob, and we appreciate it. But this driver said, we're going down the road, 6 lanes of traffic, going to Kroger to get Larry some drinks for his medicine. Larry's sitting on his side, I'm sitting on his side, and everybody else on the bus. So the guy says, "Well, Mr. and Miss Adams, you on vacation here today?" And Larry goes, "No, I have lung cancer." He said, "Oh, so you're going to MD Anderson?" Larry said, "Yes, sir, we are." So, mind you, 6 lanes of traffic, he takes his hand off the wheel, and he starts to pray. And we just bow our head, and I have to tell you, I'm sitting there thinking, "Dear God, please let this man's eyes be open." Because I am really nervous. And so when he finishes, he is crying, and he turns around, and he looks at Larry and says, "Mr. Adams, before you leave